Alongside Hask and me in the GBR studio this week, we have one of the greats. He never lost a Lions series, John Fox Davies.
The most difficult thing on a Lions tour is you don't have time. Physicality is going to be a massive part of this test series.
When you're going to go into that first test, it's emotion. You know, Paul Gustard did it brilliantly well. He gave us each a little mirror that had a picture of your opposite man. You finish the game and look at yourself in the mirror. Are you going to like what you see?
When you look back on that third test specifically, did you enjoy that?
After the second test, because I knew Jamie was going to be fit, I ended up going out on the Sunday night and I got trolleyed. Woke up in a car park in Noosa.
How much better the Wallabies going to be?
So if Lions are able to be more disciplined, have less errors, I don't see Australia being able to compete.
Into the final moments, Alex Payne trying to keep this side going forward. Haskell takes it on now with just relentless chat, largely about himself. And there's Tyndall to add the finishing touch of glamour and World Cup winning stories. That is how you podcast.
Hello Dream Team, welcome along to this week's episode of The Good, The Bad and The Rugby, proudly sponsored as always by our very good friends at Continental Tyres, the official tyre partner of England Rugby. Whether on the rugby field or the road, you can trust Continental Tyres for exceptional safety, performance and grip. England, what a result in Argentina. We're going to be talking about that in just a moment. A team mixed with seasoned internationals and new caps, sending a message to Australia that they won't be handing back their test jerseys easily to England's 13 Lions. As for the Lions themselves, well, they just about won. The team's performance brought into focus one or two questions as well about the makeup of the test team, and we'll have a little look at those that are playing against the Brumbies this week. Alongside Hask and me in the GBR studio this week, we have one of the greats. He never lost a Lions series. He started all three tests in Australia in 2013. And in 2017, he was casually man of the series in New Zealand. It is none other than John Fox Davies. How are you?
Look how youthful he
I know.
looks.
Every time we say that.
I love coming on this podcast because I always get my ego
Yeah, but you look
boost.
great, bro. I don't understand. I mean, I'm definitely having a midlife glow up, by the way. But you
Glow
are...
up?
Yeah, glow up. Yeah.
You're like on Pimp My Ride. You're like
I am,
getting,
yeah.
like new grill.
Yeah, it's like putting French windows
New
on a
lid.
council house. It's still a council house, but it looks great. And that's essentially what I've done to myself. But how are you, Alex?
Gee, what were we doing on Friday?
What do you do?
We were in the Principality Stadium watching
Talking of best performance of the weekend,
Oasis.
How good were they, by the way?
it was unreal.
You know, because you told me that on the way back from Wales, I listened to Oasis' greatest hits back, and I just went, "Oh my god,
Oh, it's unreal.
What a back catalogue!"
It was unreal. And it wasn't just the nostalgia.
Yeah.
It was the performance was 10 out of 10.
You said that on the phone, yeah.
And it was, nothing has made me feel that good for 2.5 hours for quite some time. Lower your eyebrows.
I know a
Just
couple
let me
of people
say
who
that
could.
without trying
Well, I know.
to plug an innuendo into it. It was incredible, wasn't it?
Oh, it was so good to be there. The sound was incredible, and then they just knocked it out of the park. It was like, right, here we are, have a bit of that.
But do you know what things? I think with that as well, I hope they keep that momentum because I'm going to go and see them. I'm trying to work out when at the moment. So I'm excited, but I wonder, because it was fresh, they came back, they obviously haven't fallen out yet.
Yeah.
Will it keep?
I think it's tight backstage.
Is it?
I think, yeah.
I mean, they are so talented. And also, you think of Noel's writing, just how good to be able to be at that level of lyricist and if you think every single song's got a amazing hook in it.
Yeah.
You know, like Champagne Super, Stand By, Don't Look Back, and Wonderwall, just like all of them, just amazing. Getting back to point, because I know Tom's going to cut this out because he's a ruthless man, even though we do love a chat, was what a weekend of rugby we've had, Alex.
Hello, James.
That's unbelievable.
Welcome to you.
Honestly,
Seamless.
unbelievable, yeah. And I watched all of it.
They are good Saturdays, actually. If you
Yeah.
do they are very good
Yeah.
Saturdays.
England, Argentina,
Yeah.
New Zealand, France,
Yeah.
Scotland versus Maldives,
Yeah.
Don't say it.
Fiji versus Australia,
Yeah.
Wales versus Japan.
Yeah.
That went well.
Let's get into it then, because with a quick reminder, if you're not already subscribed, do turn on the notifications, give us a like and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Where would you like to start? Should we start with England? Because
Yeah.
we'll come on to all things Lions, and obviously they are the big headline at the moment. But I think if you're looking at the result of the weekend, we went, wow,
Yeah.
that has to be in La Plata, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so, especially when you see what Argentina did against the Lions and the fact they're ranked higher than Australia. I thought when England went there, that was going to be a bit tricky, but actually the interplay of the backs particularly was incredible. I thought George Ford, 100 caps, he looked $1 million. I mean, I've always said this, when I played for Wasps against Bath, when it was...
Eastman.
Yeah, Eastman, and a couple others, was the best...
Jonathan Joseph
was the best attacking... or best attack I'd ever faced. Like, it was options, runners at the line everywhere. You just didn't know what to do as a defender. And it looked like that against Argentina. Interplay, guys taking it right to the line, George Ford involved with all of it. I think that's got to be down to Lee Blackett, who is obviously coaching.
He was at
them.
Wasps with you, wasn't he?
He was at Wasps with me. We've had him on the podcast.
Yeah.
really good guy, real good team guy, but he's developed into an incredible attack coach.
Yeah. Why does a Lee Blackett attack click? Because you worked with him at Scarlets.
He was with us at the Scarlets for a period of time, and I thought he was incredible. And I think if Wales should try and get him part of the coaching setup moving forward, like the new setup, I've said this, I think he's fantastic. And he's just very positive, and he just gets his point across really easily. And then you have no grey area then. People are able to like understand what's expected of them, and they're able to execute. I think it's brilliant.
I was watching your excellent Sky coverage. Great to see you back on the box, by the way.
A moment in time.
It was a moment in time.
Like Oasis in many ways, isn't it? There's a lot of nostalgia around.
Great performances.
Both Payne and Greenwood and Noel and Liam.
It was just the best 2 hours I'd spent. I'd never been more positive.
I'm not entirely sure that I'm believing you, but you know.
But I thought it was a really interesting point that Ronan O'Gara made, because we talked about it on the show, and actually, I'd said the same point, not sort of the opposite to what Ronan was saying, was that actually they probably need to be a bit more guarding of the ball. They need to look after it. They need to stop forcing the passes. But Ronan O'Gara said, actually, no, that's the worst message you can give to a team, which is, stop playing, worrying about mistakes. You get really tight. And I actually thought, you know what? He's completely right. And that's exactly what Lee Blackett does. Yeah. He encourages you to play. He picks a game plan that suits the players you've got in front of you, but he wants you to play. And if you make mistakes trying to do what you've been asked to do, that's not a problem. If you're going to throw an offload, then you've got to be sure that it's on, but don't just throw it willy-nilly. And I think against the Lions, Ronan's point was actually, they are forcing things, but if you stop them trying to play, stop that endeavour, then ultimately people then start freaking out about mistakes. People play with inside themselves. So it's a really fine balancing act. And I thought what England looked like was they looked like got slick hands. I know Lee, when he coached at Wasps, started every session, lots of handling drills, lots of interplay, always having the ball in your hand, always encouraging you to play. And if you try to do something and it was on, but the skill execution is poor, that's not a problem. And I think that's what's really difficult, particularly in England. We're overcoached and we become fearful about making mistakes and about forcing things, and kids don't want to pass in case they make a mistake. But in rugby, to have those magic fluid moments like you see with Fiji or you see with New Zealand when they're in their pomp, and you saw with England against Argentina, that they've got confidence to play. The Lions now, because they've had 4 games of lots of forced errors, lots of handling errors, you can only imagine they're going to start tightening up and shooting themselves a little bit.
I think, like, you look at England, they seem to have a great cadence towards the line. Like, George Ford always comes out the back. He never feels rushed. He has that timetable to move the ball, where you're looking at the Lions and they seem rushed. The forwards are more upright. I said on the quick tap on the weekend, is that the forwards seem to be like almost leaning backwards and trying to force the pass. We're too close to the gain line. If they just give themselves a bit more time, they're dictating the pace to the defence, where I think the defence have currently been trying to force the Lions play, where England just seemed really comfortable, and Argentina weren't able to come and put them under pressure.
Which leads us really nicely on to our Continental Tyres question of the week. Thank you for getting in touch, because, and this is quite a talking point, it comes from MG Anthony, is the best English fly half currently in Argentina?
Potentially, but like if you look before this, like in the Six Nations, Finn Smith and Marcus Smith were the ones dictating the pace. I thought Finn Smith's control against Wales was fantastic, and he just grew through the tournament. Yeah. And there was a moment where I think England made a mistake. A Welsh player kicked the ball on. Finn Smith had to take it into touch in England's 22, and he looked back, punched the ball. And see, the player that made the mistake said, that's not good enough. You could tell he was like barking orders. And now, for me, that was like a moment of maturity. I was like, I'd play for that 10. And I think, our expectation levels for the Lions play has been so high because of the quality of this group. I don't think we should go away from like where they were before selection. George Ford was excellent on the weekend, but it almost emphasizes even more when they get such a good win in England.
Yeah, but he didn't have, if be honest with it, I can't remember which game it was, but George came off the bench.
All Blacks in November.
Yeah,
but he hadn't played any rugby. I think he was carrying an injury.
I know that, but the point was that he was normally so reliable that somebody's come on, and then there was a couple of bits that didn't go his way. Not again, obviously, sort of form's temporary, class is permanent. He's not a bad player. I just think, as Foxy said, he'd probably taken a step further back to then come to the before now. So you can't really say whether the best fly half's out there because you select on people that were in form.
It's all timing as well.
Yeah.
Your career is dictated by timing. Sometimes you just have no say in it, and you might be playing your best rugby when you're not where the best team is.
Interesting. Certainly England's attack did go well. I think the answer to the question, the Continental Tyres question from MG Anthony is no. Stick with what the Lions have got. It's a system rather than an individual
but it's a good question.
Challenge.
Yeah, and it's timing of it all. It's like George was a great player and 100 caps, amazing, but it was just, he's probably just unfortunate that he wasn't in the shop window during the Six Nations.
Yeah. A couple of other things from England. Defence was enormous. I love Charlie Ewell's having his finger put back in with a big smile.
Yeah.
Knew where the camera was.
Yeah. He's getting that sorted out because I did that a few times and then it kept falling out when people shook my hand.
The best one I've ever seen was Mike Catt, who was obviously in the Waratahs coaching box for the game against the Lions.
His finger goes like that.
His finger is at 90 degrees.
Like that, literally,
His little finger. So it's almost like
that.
Phil Davies as well, the old second
I've never seen anything like
it. Yeah.
If he's using his laptop, his little finger's actually tapping on the person next door.
Yeah, but
when if
hitting
the old shift key.
If I'm lucky enough to run my hand through a girl's hair, this finger snags on, sort of takes an eye out.
Her in the eye.
So you sort of have to. Yeah, it's not as romantic as you'd want it to be.
No. Just a word for Steve Borthwick overall, because 10, 12 months ago, it was hot under his collar. It sort of feels like you look at the strength and depth. I thought the front row actually, Finn Baxter, Jamie George, Joe Hayes were immense.
Yeah.
He's got
Joe
options.
Hayes, lovely pass to Roebuck to score in the corner.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you want for your front row. You want that ability to play off the... and that's when the team's going forward and feels confident. I think, look, I was slightly concerned after watching the performance Argentina put in against the Lions that England were going to go down there because, it was real negative about Borthers. Then we had that real nice bit of positivity. It was positive, but you're only positive until you get to your next match. And then when you go and play against Argentina away, that could be a very sticky situation to get into. Hopefully it carries on more positive. I mean, again, you're only as good as your last game. You can bask in it this week until they play them next week.
I think bigger picture-wise, you're missing 13 of your best players, and then you take a squad down with experience, a nice mix, exposed to Test match rugby in a difficult place to go, get wins. It's a great way to be tracking for World Cup coming in a couple of years. It's building a base and a platform to really develop a really competitive team.
England up to 5th in the world rankings, and certainly the garden looking fairly rosy for Steve Borthwick. We'll take a big deep breath.
Here we go.
At the other end of the scale.
Yeah.
Wales 18th straight defeat, 19-7 up at half-time against Japan. Not to be. Japan come back to win 24-19. Wales now 14th in the world. It's worth remembering, in 2019, you were world number 1. That is an escalator heading in the wrong direction.
Yeah, free falling.
Put some context on it. You've had some bad days in the last 12, 18 months.
Yeah.
Where does this one rank?
Definitely up there, especially when you see this.
Or down there.
Well, yeah, true. I think you look at the way they played the first half, got a bit of a lead, and then the second half, just a real lack of control. And everyone talked about the heat. Everyone talked about it and built it up to maybe to be, not bigger than it was. It would have been difficult and very, very hard for them. But, you would have liked to have thought that with some experience there, because we're only missing Thomas and Jack, with some experience there, you thought we could have got a better result, and it's tough.
It's really hard to keep discussing it because most of the bases have been covered on numerous occasions as to where they go.
You kind of got to go, look, it can't get any worse. You might as well just go and play and enjoy it because you can't.
Well, you say that. I mean, I'm looking at the November games. They've got Argentina, Japan, New Zealand, South Africa.
Yeah.
Now, Japan at home, you should say they should win. But if they don't find something in this second test, suddenly you're potentially looking at 2 years without a result for Welsh rugby. And it's not that that's a kind of anomaly. It's just, where on earth do you go? I mean, where do you start? Do you start top down? Have you got to look at root and branch from the ground up?
So obviously they're looking for a new head coach, and you just hopefully that the due diligence they're doing, the time they're taking to find this new coach and new team is the right people, making sure that they look at, this is the group of players that we've got over the next 4 or 5 years. we need a coach that's going to get the best out of this group, and he needs to be, or he or she needs to be like this. And that's why I hope that the union are doing a proper service towards these group of players, that they give them the right coach.
Yeah.
And that's why
do you have any idea? Because Dave Redden, obviously, World Cup winner with England in 2003 and has been Olympic Association, FA, etc. Do you have any idea how when we're going to see what the new coaching setup looks like?
Do you think anyone wants a job?
Well, I think it's really difficult, because I think if you take it could kind of be a bit of a coach killer.
Yeah, it could be a coach killer, but
there's an opportunity there.
Yeah.
There is,
but there is a potential huge damage as well.
What happens with the WRU at times, and the fact that the stuff with the regions and everything else is a bit of a palaver, and there's no pathway and development stuff at the moment. You know, if you take that job, you're going to need to sit down and go, listen, you know, I have no idea. I've got an idea what I can do with these players, and I'm going to try to make them the best I possibly can, but it's going to take time, and I need your unwavering support. You need to give me 4 years minimum. You can't, if we lose every game for the first 2 years, but then we change and develop and move forward, and we're putting things in place, and we're finding the right talent, and we're finding a game plan that works, and the boys are getting up to the conditioning, and we're reviewing the standards. You've got to give me the freedom to do it. It's just a really difficult one, because there isn't a lot of upside, because there isn't a load of magical players under the carpet that you can pull out.
I think the fact it's taken so long to find someone as well.
And if they do go a young coach as well, maybe the experience of someone like Dave Redden in the high performance area that he's worked in will be able to help with creating that environment that needs to be done, because we're in turmoil, falling down, and just we need to find something very quickly.
What is the greenest shoot in Welsh rugby? If you were going to start somewhere and think, right,
Jonathan Fox-Davies.
Right.
He looks most useful. He's the best looking thing about Welsh rugby.
Okay. I'm not sure it's going to necessarily fix the on-field problems, but is there any one thing where you can say, right, start there and go from it? I mean, has it got to be head coach down at this point in time, and just sort of someone to come in with belief and enthusiasm? And
they got to have the right head coach for the Welsh team. But I think, the Scarlets qualified for the knockout stage of the URC, which is a step in the right direction. That's and hopefully they can build on that. But when the regions don't know their budgets and how they're going to spend and sign players for next year, let alone like 3-4 years down the line, you want to be able to plan where you're going to be able to spend your money. And the fact that the regions don't know where their budget's coming from for next year, you're always going to be up against it. You're always on the back foot.
Tough times across the Severn Bridge. I think a win on Saturday against Japan in Test 2. Suddenly the Garden is back in bloom.
All is sorted.
All is sorted. Big deep breath, everybody. Talking of crossing the world, crossing bridges, crossing the world. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
We are very excited to announce that we are going to be doing 2 live shows while we are out in Australia. I fly Sunday, you fly
Monday.
Whoosh, cannot wait. The first one is happening ahead of the first test on Thursday, the 17th of July. We're going to be at the Harvey Norman McGregor store in Brisbane. Doors open from 5 o'clock.
This is a proper exclusive event, just 80 tickets available, and it'll be me, Payno, the Lord, and World Cup winner Jeremy Paul in attendance. If you're in Brisbane, make sure you grab your spot using the link in the episode description box.
Harvey Norman are sorting this out with all the furnishings for our podcast studio while we're in Australia. They're also the experts in tech and the destination to upgrade to a next-gen AI PC. We're going to be using their PCs to get the shows out to you faster than ever before, and certainly faster than producer Tom can get the hamster wheel spinning.
Just sack producer Tom. AI is taking over. Next-gen AI laptops have multi-day battery life, enhanced device security, and the inbuilt AI which allows for a personalised user experience. Head online to your local Harvey Norman store today. And Harvey Norman, I'm very happy to take one of your AI laptops. You're welcome. And thanking me, thanking you.
How excited are we about 3
my
weeks
new AI
in
laptop?
Well, that and 3 weeks in Oz.
Yeah, amazing. I think it's going to be unbelievable. What a country! What an experience! The romance of having fans on a Lions tour after the debacle of 2021. I think it's going to be exciting to see it. We're going to do live shows. We're going to do quick taps, quick reviews. We're going to be doing. I'm going to do some DJ sets out there. We've got so many little meet and greets, and there's just going to be so many big legends of the game lurking around, which I'm very excited about.
Still time.
And Tins has connected up the Wazoo in Australia as well, so there should be some big moments. They love him over there.
I think we might be going to watch some of the AFL as well.
Yeah, I'll be keen.
You keen for that?
Yeah.
We're going to be very busy, and we'll take you on the journey with us as well. We've got another live show for you. Our second of them is at the Establishment in Sydney on the 31st of July. That's another Thursday ahead of the third test. Again, it's Haas, the Lord, myself, and hopefully James O'Connor. That is, of course, unless he's called up by the Wallabies, given the fact that Noah Loloseo picked up a bit of it. Why are you laughing?
He'd still come on the Thursday, surely.
Exactly. Multitasking. Poor old Noah Loloseo picked up an injury against Fiji at the weekend. If you fancy being with us in Sydney, at the Establishment, check out the link in the episode description box. We're going to talk all things Wallabies a little bit later on, but should we get into the Lions first of all? It is a really juicy team that's been named for the game on Wednesday against the ACT Brumbies to fly through it. Genji up front, Dan Sheehan and Tyg Furlong completing the front row. Skipper Marrow is back into the engine room alongside Ireland's Joe McCarthy. Interesting back row, which we'll talk about. Ollie Chesham at 6, Tom Curry gets a crack at 7, and Jack Conan will wear 8. Jamison, Gibson Park and Finn Russell 9 and 10. The centre combination, all Ireland of Bundy Aki and Gary Ringrose, with James Lowe, Tommy Freeman and Blair Kinghorn starting at 15, backing up off the back of the performance against the Waratahs. Kelleher, Porter, Will Stewart, Van der Fleer, Pollock, Mitchell, Marcus Smith and Mac Hansen on the bench. Hansen obviously going against the Brumbies, the team he used to play for. First time in the pro era, sorry to keep doing this, there is no Welsh player in a Lions matchday squad. Don't put the bird up at the great man alongside. Talk us through that team first of all. That has a very test match feel about it. Yes or no?
It does feel like a test match team. I like going with Chesham 6. I think it just gives, the size, the grunt. I think physicality is going to be a massive part of this test series, and I think his work rate is pretty epic. He's a big physical man. The line-out will function far better with more options, and because I think that's stuttered a bit. But and the back line, the back three, I'm excited to see.
Yeah,
I think they're all in form. Kinghorn seems to be playing with such a confidence. Freeman can't stop scoring. I think it's a strong team. I think Andy Farrell's gone, look, this is where the tour properly starts. Should
we have a look at two component parts? I think probably it looks very settled, but the two elements that might change are back row and centres.
Yeah.
Look at that back row for us and tell us, does that fix the problems that the Lions were having, particularly at the breakdown against the Tars?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because people always become bogged down, and said this before, with numbers on the shirt and what you do. And actually, it kind of becomes irrelevant because, for example, Chesham's the number 6, but he'll be actively using the line-up quite a lot, which means that he won't be at the first breakdown. He probably won't get around the corner for the second breakdown, so he'll probably have to drop back into midfield and get a third or fourth carry. You traditionally have your number 6 off the back of the line-up, and he'd be the first guy around the corner to get the ball. That's what people believe. Same thing with a number 7. If you've got a tall number 7 and number 7's using the line-out, he doesn't then get to the first breakdown to clear it. So you've got to rely on the other back row. So all of it goes out the window. So all that kind of nonsense about what number you've got in your shirt, it's all how the team play and the game plan that's put in front of them. I said from the first test, what I would have done would be Jack Morgan at 6, Van der Fleer at 7, and Conan at 8 is what I would have had. And then I would have had Ben Earl off the bench. Is what I would have done, because I think you got complement of carries, breakdown, physicality, game breakers and collision. But this is a more sensible back row that would fit in, because Chesham will give you more line-out option. He's actually been carrying the ball pretty well, so he's going to get you over the gain line. I think Tom Curry's got that real physicality. I think he grows on the big occasions. I think Jack Conan is reliable. I think he plays well. His error count's not particularly high. Benol got 21 carries the last game. I don't think Pollock's going to be on the bench. I don't think he has played well enough at the gritty bits to be on the bench. I think he has X factor. I absolutely love him. I'm just being harsh because I'm just talking about the fact we're preparing for a test match here.
Okay, but just to dial specifically into the breakdown, why were the Lions so passive in that area against the Reds? Against the Boris.
Okay, so again, I think this is another misnomer that I don't know whether fans listen or don't listen to it, but it's a whole team-wide role to clear the breakdown,
sure.
right? And just if a team has struggled in a breakdown, it's got nothing to do with back row. It's got to do with the fact that people aren't clearing hard enough, aren't clearing low enough, and aren't close enough to the ball
but is that
carrier.
an alarm, therefore, in game 4 of a Lions tour?
It is, because I think when you're playing a new structure, when you're playing a new game plan, right? When you play for your club or you play for your team consistently, you've got the same pattern, the same players. You kind of know where everything's going to go. You're used to playing with players, and you understand what's going to happen. Sometimes when you're playing, so you've got a different line-out combination, you've got different guys going up, different people are going to clear that first breakdown, different people are going to clear the second breakdown, different people are going to clear the third breakdown. Once you play together for a long period of time, you kind of start really nailing your roles. I think it just has to be an urgency to get to the breakdown and clear it. It doesn't matter what number you've got in the shirt. If you're near the ball, you have to clear out. You have to clear out with violence.
And as well, it comes if you're not winning the contact area as a ball carrier. Like, we go back to the point, the English players on the weekend have the ball in front of them. They're able to put a pass in if they wanted to. So that creates a one-on-one, because as a defence, you're not able to put a double shot on. Because if a forward has a ball tucked under that, he's carrying.
Yeah.
So you then can go, right, let's double up on him, we can slow the ball down. But when forwards have the skill level to have the ball there, move it, you can't double shot him, because it'll create a seam elsewhere. So there's a number of things going into it. So you can't just say, yes, they have to be more urgent to the ruck. But if you're not winning those collisions or falling forward or winning that game line battle, but the speed of ball is going to be terrible, or you're going to allow opportunities for someone like Charlie Gamble to get over the ball.
Yeah,
and also the thing is, but if it's loose passes and balls going to ground and bounce passes and scrambling and plays not going quite according to plan, you're exactly right. You get
all
knocked
of this
back.
as a collective, I think, is a bit of a concern for the Lions. 4 games in, we're talking about a lack of timing. We're talking about wrong people in the wrong place, bounce passes.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're almost trying to run before they can walk and jog. And I think there was times on the weekend where, if you just, attack in the middle and then keep going, trying to beat them around the corner, just getting that speed of ball. But like the 9 and 10, Mitchell and Finsmith were looking to sweep back down the short side. It was almost like they're trying to force the issue. I think going back to a more simple attack. Like, I love it when forwards are able to play out the back off 10, but I don't think they're having the right timing. Right. So it's almost go, right, let's just get a flow to our game. Let's get comfortable going forward, comfortable moving the ball across the line, and then we can then really, like, sharpen the tools in terms of getting that intricacy of how we've seen Ireland play over the last few years. Yeah. And I think we're just almost just getting that little, getting ahead of ourselves slightly.
I saw it with England 2016, and I'll go back to it, but it was a really interesting thing. Eddie just came in and was like, look, I'm going to focus on these areas and go back to what suits this side. And the suit side was aggressive defence, was excellent clear out, and was getting the ball and going forward and developing the tips, and then you develop them out the back door, and then you do the wraparounds, then you do everything else. And the backs can do what the hell they want. But from a forwards point of view, that's what you've got to have. And at the moment, if you try to all things all at once, create a really attractive style of play, try to create defence, try and do that, and you'll change the squad every 5 minutes, that's where it falls apart. So if you could go back to simple weapons, and that's what I think when you see them play the first test, that's probably what they'll ultimately go back with. I think it's a massive mistake to try to create a style of play, and there's always this pressure to have this romance. It's not. The reason Wales did so well and England did well and Wasps did well back in the day was you've got guys going around the corner, challenging people, carrying the ball, multi-phase, and then the multi-phase, little tips, inside, outside, and then when the backs want it, out the back, just running hard, running direct, soaking in numbers from the opposition and creating space, because that's as complicated as rugby needs to be. All these loop around, run around, out stuff, crossfield kick, that's fucking great. But if you don't get the bread and butter right, which is a violent defence, which is aggressive clear out, and go forward, you might as well not bother.
This squad, they're all great rugby players. So if they'll be able to play rugby. They can see what's in front of them. And I think, giving them a license to just, play a bit more in terms of, right, what's in front of them, instead of having a structure, win the gain line, focus on that. And then when the ball comes and there's space to move it, they'll see it. And you don't have to overcomplicate it, I feel. Yeah. Like, it's the most difficult thing on a Lions tour is you don't have time. And like Haas said, forget about trying to make them a team that's look like it's played together for 4 years. Let's just go back to being simple. We're going to put pressure on you, play in the right areas, and when we get the ball, we're going to use our physicality, and when it's on, our talented rugby players will take care of it. I trust this group of players to be able to play what's in front of them.
Just quickly, the other sort of combination I wanted to ask you about, Fox, is centres. Are these, in your view, the starting centres for the first test, or are they playing to be the starting centres in the first test? Get off the fence. Pre-tour,
they were my favourites. I thought they would have a huge amount of trust from Andy Farrell after playing for him for a number of years. But I thought Tuipulotu and Hugh Jones put a real claim on Saturday. Like, they were two big positives coming from the game.
Do you therefore go either Tuipulotu, Jones, or Aki Ringrose, or could you see an Aki Jones?
Aki Jones. I think you look back at the Six Nations, and Ireland were in trouble against Wales in the first half, and Bundy Aki came on, and his physicality, leadership, his attitude he brought to that test match was incredible. And I thought, like you need people like that in a Lions series. And he's been really physical at times this tour already, but I think Wednesday these two need a big performance. Otherwise, I would potentially go Aki Jones. Oosh. The lack of rugby Hugh Jones has had might have helped him because he seems really fresh. Yeah. He's having some game time. He's running some great lines into holes where I think sometimes centres forget that, like, I'll run this line to try and block the defender, where he's running to bust. And I think, for that first try, he got so tight to Tuipulotu, and it was just perfect angle on the way bouncing out. And I think, he's becoming a good link player as well.
I do just wonder whether that Tars performance, which wasn't what Andy Farrell was looking for, might actually be quite a useful tool. Because if you put another 54-7 win together, that's 3 on the bounce, all your first halves are stumbling a bit, your second half are getting going.
Pointless.
It's a bit repetitive. But now that they've had a kind of guys, that just isn't the level that we should be playing at. You use that and on you go. Do you think what we're seeing on the pitch is exactly what we'll see in the first test, or do you think there's a lot of plotting and planning going on the training pitch, which will come out in Brisbane?
I think I'd like to hope they're adapting to what they're seeing on the pitch in terms of areas we need to get better and what's not working, what is working. I've said that they've got to go down the physicality route. I think Australia wouldn't be able to live with them in that respect.
And do you think there is a significant gear to go to that they haven't yet reached? The difference between a TARS and a first test is what, in terms of levels?
2-3 levels probably.
Right.
Yeah, like speed of it. And there was a couple of times in 2017 and 2013 that 2017 I was dead to the world in that third test at times.
Still caught Lamape.
Yeah, but after that, everyone talks about that, but the thing was that ball stays in play for about 4 or 5 minutes, and then about 4 or 5 phases later, Australia attacking again, and Bowden Barrett puts a crossfield kick in. I see the ball going over my head, and I'm saying run, just run, because I knew the winger would tackle the winger, and the tap down is my guy to try and tackle. And I don't get there, and they scored the try from that. And I remember going up to Warren after the game and saying, "Look, I apologise. I was blowing through my arse. I just couldn't move." And he says, "Oh, look, don't worry about it." But everyone talks about the chase back, but I always remember, I didn't do my job 4 or 5 phases later because I was absolutely blowing. And that's the thing. The boys will find when they go into Australia now, the first test, it'll just be another level.
Wow. Okay. Fascinating. It is building. Perhaps not, I'm not sure either side exactly where they want to be right now, but there are still, 10 days to go, 12 days to go until that first test. So lots of time, you would say. Let's have a look back at some of the moments from the game that no one saw coming.
Yeah, The Blind Side is brought to you by Howden, global insurance brokers and principal partner of the British and Irish Lions in both insurance and rugby. When the unexpected happens, we've got you covered.
Should we pick out, there are a couple of things. Scott Cummings, I thought, responded really well against the Waratahs after a tricky hit out earlier in the tour. We had a 6-2 split. Well, we did have a 6-2 split named on the bench, and then obviously Pollock dropped out, so you ended up with Duhan coming on. So that perhaps isn't the headline. The one I wanted to pick out was from the Ultimate Test series, which is the sort of the watch along Living with Lions for this year's tour, and the role of Simon Easterby.
And I thought, great insight into the camp.
Was am I right in saying he was your first captain back in the day?
First captain of the Scarlets.
Talk to us about the man and the impact that he's having with the Lions this year.
I think he will bring an edge like similar to Andy Farrell did in the 2013 with those great speeches. I think the standards he set as a player, and then when he coached me, was unbelievable. Like, so mentally tough and asked so much of himself that he set a standard for everyone else. I remember, like, fitness testing. If there was a young 7 running up against him, that 7 would have easily beaten him physically, but like Simon would not let him have an easy day. Like, he would put himself in a hole just so like that youngster would earn that, best record on fitness. But I think he's developed into a coach that, listening to him speak, the detail he's trying to get across, but then given that emotion, I think he will bring the best out of this group, and I think he'll understand the importance he has as a defence coach, because that's where your energy comes from as a team. That's where your identity, like how you're perceived as a team. And I think if they can get anywhere near to what he used to replicate as a player, I think the Lions will be in a great spot.
Great orator. And just in terms of where the Lions will try and get to emotionally now, does it need a bit of a rocket and a couple of teacups going all over the place, or is it just about detail?
No, I think you need the emotion. And we don't know what it is about defence coaches being good orators and being able to pull that emotional drivers. I think when you're going to go into that first test against Australia, it's emotion. This is an opportunity that we saw from the Test Series 2017, Peter Hermione, George Cruz. You get your chance, you don't feature again.
No room for sentiment.
No room for sentiment. Brian O'Driscoll being dropped, there's no room for sentiment. You've got to go and win. And I think that's what I've always tried to say about Andy Farrell. He's going to pick a team to win a game. He's not picking a team for romance. He's not picking a team for the fans. He's not picking a team for heritage. He's not picking a team to include players from every country. His legacy is on the line in regards to his Lions by picking the right people to do a job, and you need that emotion. But you've got to work out what makes the players tick. And I think a good coach, especially Easterby, will, Paul Gustard did it brilliantly well, was knowing what to say to each player, what was important, and they come up with little gimmicks. I mean, we played against Australia in that first Test series, and he gave us each a little mirror, a little flip mirror that had a picture of your opposite man and your own mirror, and it was like, this is the player you're playing against. This is the accountability. You look yourself in the mirror. If you finish the game and look at yourself in the mirror, are you going to like what you see? Because he's either going to like what he sees.
Can you remember who your opposite number was in the flip thing, or did you just use the mirror?
I just used the mirror anyway. I brought my own mirror. I brought a fucking full life-size one with backlights,
with lights,
of course, with lights around it. But no, and I've had other ones where you've had messages from your family, or a piece of paper in your locker with your stats compared to their stats, and a point about it, and some emotional quote or something, or someone just takes you to one side and says, listen, you fucking need to turn up, or this is your last chance. It depends what the day is and what the mood is and what you think is going to work.
It's getting that collective buy-in from everyone to bring everyone together. But I think where Ireland went to be one of the best team in the world for a number of years was Ireland always had that emotional drive. But what Andy Farrell brought in was that execution and operating at that high level. And I'm sure that coaching group is trying to make sure that they understand the importance of, yes, emotion is going to be massive, and it's an extra 5-10%, but that accuracy that we haven't quite seen at the start of this tour, and the execution levels need to be up there as well. Yeah. So there is a balance of where we need to operate on at this point.
You see it with, Rassie Erasmus is a great one because of what the nature of that South African side, where you've got a real level of diversity of cultural and economic backgrounds. You've got so many levers to pull, and also because it's a dictatorship, really, whereas, they've got leaders, they've got Circles, but it's still a dictatorship. He still runs the show. He's still the big dog. You saw in that video, when they lost, he just went completely mental.
Your bodies don't belong to you, they belong to South Africa.
Yes, that's what I mean. But you can't, you can't say that as an because we don't have that nationalistic pride. Say as an English coach, it doesn't work like that.
No.
Some other countries do, but with him in particular, you can pull the heartstring. You can say, I saw some of you smiling. I know you like to sing, but you got to fucking show that it hurts. And sometimes sport is a pantomime. Sometimes it's saying the right thing. Sometimes it's players doing the right thing. Sometimes it's captains knowing to go to the coach, like we talked to with Alan Wynne. Come at me in this first meeting, call me out, show me that I'm no bigger than the rest of the team. And that's what that level of emotion does. And I think this is what these guys will be doing, and they'll be planning it, they'll be talking about it, and they'll know what they're going to do. And some of it does come off the cuff, but more often than not, it's understanding where they are in the week, what they need, and that's the sign of good emotional intelligence. And the best coaches have good emotional intelligence. Most people don't. Most people are heads and don't read a room and don't read people. And it's actually not that easy to do.
No, I'm sure the players are aware as well that they haven't delivered.
Yeah.
And I think you, as a coach, are almost hoping that like the senior group, the boys can look. We'll get into us now. We'll take over from this, and we'll make sure that we're right for the next couple of weeks.
I want to ask you about Saturday's game in just a moment, but actually, I mean, you're talking about Simon Easterby, obviously in the frame for the Wales job as well, but he has been certainly one of the early stars of the content that's been coming out of the Lions camp. And whether it's the bounce of the ball, a last-minute injury, or a lucky interception, rugby is all about navigating the unknown. That's where Howden come in. Their team of experts supports clubs, fans and businesses in preparing for whatever's next in life, because when the unexpected happens, Howden has you covered. Let's have a little look at the Oz New Zealand Invitational squad. We'll pick out a couple of names. It's Les Kiss who is coaching it. He's included 18 internationals in his combined squad, and we have got the likes of All Blacks David Havili, Shannon Frizzell, Hoskins Satutu, who's a hell of a player, and the Australian contingent led by Marika Corambetti, Pete Samu and Lucan Salakai Lotto. 10 Australian internationals, 8 from New Zealand in the squad, a combined 300 caps or so. There's a really interesting... So the thing about the Lions is it's always been about trying to get into the Saturday team. And I just wonder now whether what we've seen against the Brumbies, actually what you want now is to be in the Wednesday team, because that's going to give you a 10-day preparation window going into that first test. But how important, and obviously the team will be named, I think, Thursday, that whoever is selected keeps the show on the road against what is going to be a really dangerous Invitational 15. Yeah. And that's going to be quite a challenge for some of them, because it will appear that they won't be playing in that first test.
Yeah, but
that's
I
professionalism
think it gives them an opportunity. Like, it's still a week's turnaround.
Yep.
So it's not like in other tours that the game was less than 4 days before the first test, and the likelihood of you forcing yourself into that team is less. But now they have a week, there's still a big chance.
Right.
I like the move.
So it'll be a last chance game.
Last chance, but obviously, like we said, this looks like a test team that's going to play against the Brumbies. And I get the thinking that you're probably going to have more of a structured challenge that you will probably face against Australia than playing the Invitational team on the week before. Like my tours were, like, I was playing on the Saturdays because I was able to get a good rhythm of games going. But this almost gives them a better chance, like 10 days to prep for Australia, help the team get ready for this Invitational team, and then they're into a test week then, which is vital prep. Like, everyone is, like, rugby players, a creature of habits. Yeah. They like to have the same week, nothing changed, whatnot. So they'll have a great week to fly into Brisbane.
If you are in that test team, do you want a tough, physically challenging, sort of 99 out of 100 keep something back for Saturday, or do you want to taper it over 10 days and actually have quite a light week at the end of a long season? How would you want to get ready for the first test? I
always liked start of the week to be more loaded, and then as you're tapering towards the game, getting ready, like sharpening the blade, shorter, sharper sessions. Yeah. When we play with Gats, like the Thursday session might only be like 35 minutes on the field, but the intensity was still there. So there was never just like a plod. It was always an intent to play at like match speed, to train at match speed, sorry. But he'd always say, like, trust us to make sure that we don't do too much. Like, our conditioning, our sports scientists were always excellent. And then Friday would be down to the captain and the senior players, which would be very quick. And then you're good to go then.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it, but it's managing that emotional time, because it'd be an 8 o'clock kickoff out there.
Yep.
So when you do your captain's run, there's such a long time to mull over, and how these boys would have done it many times, but for the people at home, it's 24 hours. It feels like 2 days because it's the biggest game of your career. It's a Lions test match, opening test match, and you just feel that, like, right, what am I going to do with myself? Like, you try and have a nap. No, you start thinking about the game. So it's trying to give yourself...
So what did you actually do? How did you break it up?
So I'd always go after the captain's run Friday afternoon. I either go and see family or with my wife, or girlfriend at the time, and try and spend time away from the hotel or the boys in the afternoon. And then Saturday, try and get out and about and make sure that I was... just have confidence in yourself.
And were you able to block out what was going to come later that night, or was it constantly like a sort of earworm, just constantly fly in the air? Just,
there was a few games where there was a bit more riding on it and a bit more say press around it all. But I think 2013 was I never experienced anything like it before that third test, with all the media hype and everything like that. And I was like nervous for that one, because I knew that if we didn't win, they'd be baying for blood.
Right.
So, but then the other series, I was 4 years older, 4 years more experience. I was comfortable in my routine of how I like to prep. And I made sure I had things during the day that would be able to take my mind off things. So yeah,
fascinating. I mean, as someone who's only ever watched it, I don't know how you do the 12 hours before a game.
Do you know what? Well, I mean, I just treat like when I was younger, you tried loads of different stuff, like making sure you take a sleeping pill the night before to see if to make you sleep. But then as I got older, you just realise it's like making you a bit groggy. So you just go, just keep everything the same. Wake up. If I woke up early and had breakfast, I wouldn't lay in bed all day. I'd get up, I'd move, I'd go for a coffee, I'd probably do some work, make some music, whatever it might be. I used to watch, I used to be like quite specific. I always used to watch like the Sherlock Holmes movies with Robert Downey Jr. whatever. But actually, by the end of it, when I was going to games, I was watching comedy like Dave Chappelle. Yeah. I was watching Bill Burr. And I was very, very relaxed, and then when I got to the stadium, I then put my curated playlist on, and that would be it. That would be switching. So the rest of the day, I'd be very relaxed. I'd probably go for a little swim or go for a walk. I used to work with Margot Wells for years and years, and she always had a specific warm-up that I'd always do earlier in the day, so I'd always come and feel good. And actually, game days, more often, that was the only part of the week that I did feel good.
Really?
Because bizarrely, because they hadn't hammered me on the Friday, I'd come in actually feeling okay. But whereas earlier on in my career, I trained so hard in the week, so many times, did so many extra sessions, that I was going into games tired. And also rugby overtrains players anyway. We always do things. And again, they always say they look after you and stuff like that. But what they never count is you're only training for 30 minutes. Like, yeah, fucking 30 minutes on the field with everyone else. Not the 40 minutes you've done with the forwards, the extra bits. By the time you've done it, you're still out there for 2 hours. But they pretend, they just wrap it up. It's like they'd be good politicians coaches, because they just basically tell you what you want to hear. But we didn't count that part. It's like, well, I still did it, so it counted.
Yeah.
But game days, I think, were quite exciting. I think the only time I've ever find it hard is when you get into a game and it starts like pissing down with rain and cold, and you've got until like the evening, you're like, oh God, this is going to be horrific. But most of the time, you kind of just get into routine. As you get older, you become more relaxed. And some people get really nervous. But by the time I was sort of playing later on, I would do a lot of visualization stuff. And I did some, not like hypnotherapy stuff, kind of, with a guy called Elliot Rowe. And he'd pre-recorded something that I would listen to, and I'd visualize, and I'd go to a different place, and I'd, focus on what I was going to do for the games. And all that kind of stuff really helped, because I think some of the rugby I was playing in my latter half of my career was some of my best, just because I had a good coach, I was well motivated, I was chilled, my head was in the right place, and all that kind of stuff went into it. And it just becomes professional, and you don't really worry about the stakes of the game.
I actually love the ramp up towards the game.
Yeah.
Like the little things I did in my routine that would, like, I'd be getting off the bus, and you like you said, you feel fresh, and you're like, right, this is time to shine. And I remember Martin Williams, he said in my early part of my career, I think we were in the gym, and he goes, remember, Fox, champagne doesn't get handed out on a Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it stuck with me for my whole career. So like, I knew like Saturday this is champagne day. Like this was time to go out and shine.
That was what, like, the guy in one of the books I talked about, Travis Allen, who's one of my good mates. He sat me down and was like, all this stuff you're doing, it's not leading to any decent performance. And what's the point being able to squat 300 kg, box squat? How's that going to make you a better player? And all the stuff was like, you've got it all the wrong way around. And remember that training tries don't count, big collisions don't count, all these extras don't count. You've got to put a foundation in, but actually all that matters is performance. And actually, I think so many kids get it wrong, whereas all that matters is how you perform on the weekend. And I used to look at guys like Billy Vanapola and some of the relaxed players that would just turn up and just deliver, like it was like water off a duck's back. And
Toby Faletau.
Toby Faletau just fucking chilled. Other guys like Owen Redding just reading, booking the change room, just zero fucks given. You hear about Dean Richards, used to just sit there reading the paper, have a shit, go out and then just fucking absolutely carve up.
Test match
Finley Calder said, we talked about, he said that, he'd be there ranting, raving. Dean Richards was like, yeah, can I just go and stand outside? This isn't for me. Yeah. And I think people have got to prepare, and I think some people you see are looking for systems and ways of preparing when they haven't organically found it, but ultimately all that matters is how you perform on the weekend.
Interesting you referenced 2013. I mean, people might forget that you played all 3 tests. When you look back on that 3rd test specifically, did you enjoy that day, or was all of the noise and the chaos that was going on in and around the Lions camp because of the Brian O'Driscoll non-selection, did it slightly get in the way of today's a day of days?
No, because when I look back at it and reflected on it, it almost made it even better.
Really?
Yeah, because the whole week, I didn't think he'd play. I didn't think I'd play. Sorry,
right.
Retract that.
Let's go with the original.
Let's go with the original. I'd cause more of a stir. But so after the 2nd test, because I knew Jamie was going to be fit, like I ended up going out on the Sunday night with the group, and literally thought, right, my tour's over, no more games, and I got trolleyed. Woke up in a car park in Noosa.
It's in just a niche way. Like, just how do you end up in a car? Like,
I still to this day don't know how I ended up there.
Just thought you just go, I can't. Life's just too hard at the moment. I'm just gonna have a sleep in a car park.
Well, or just too drunk, just
under a car. I get leaning up against a car.
Leaning up against the wall in the car park.
Oh, wow, that's like Alan Partridge at the bar.
Yeah. So literally woke up, big panic, and started running back to the hotel, thinking, right, how am I going to explain this? But then a story of Jerry Collins, the late Jerry Collins, popped in my head that when he used to stay out and enjoy touring, he'd always walk back into the team hotel with a newspaper. And if someone asked, he says, I couldn't sleep. I went and got a newspaper. So a quick detour to a corner shop, pick up a newspaper, get back to the hotel, and I remember in a huge panic, but I was rooming with Christian Wade.
Oh, yeah.
And he was just like super chill. He's like, where you been, Fox? It's like, oh, man, I woke up in a panic and in a car park, blah, blah, blah. He's like, get your head down for a couple of hours, like, lad, just look after yourself. And then, so Wednesday came, called the coach's office. I thought, here we go, being dropped here now. And I thought, well, I've been playing well enough, but they're going to go with Jamie and Brian and tell me they're playing, that me at 13, and I'm like smiling and thinking, here we go. And Gas goes, you happy with that? I said, yeah, I'm over the moon. But in a couple of hours' time, there's going to be a shitstorm happening. Yeah. And then they name the team. Lo and behold, a couple of hours later, there's a Facebook group for Justice for Bod with like 1 million likes. My brother was one of them.
I love your brother.
Yeah,
I love your brother.
He was, but like I wouldn't have changed that whole experience. Even the press conference going live on Sky Sports News, and the first question was like, Jonathan Davies, you picked ahead of Brian O'Driscoll. Does that make you a better rugby player than him? And I was just like,
how did you answer that?
Yes,
I think it was just like Jeffrey Boycott, straight bat. And for me, it was, look back, won the Test series, and the selection was justified because we won, and it was never about one person. It was about a squad that was trying to win a Test series, and fond memories.
I was going to say, given you'd played the first and second test though, and it was Jamie that came back in for the third, have you ever wondered why you got more heat than he did? Because surely it was his selection that actually rejigged it.
Yeah.
How does the doc get away with that?
Because the doc,
isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
He's a doctor. He saves lives.
Yeah, apparently.
All he does is travel around the world.
Yeah.
It's not quite the same.
Do you have the press conference sort of still hanging? or did you recover? Was that the next day?
No, so it was on the Thursday. So we get to Sydney. You know how they do the press? It was like top table, coach and captain, press 3 players, media 3 players. This one just had top table, Jonathan Davies, and that was it.
Oh.
It was like a lamb to the slaughter.
Did they? What were they doing? That's an extraordinary thing to do.
Just like, that's classic rugby, isn't it? All the pressure of asked for it. Well, the press can't have you.
There was a photo I think a friend sent me when I was in the press, because like hand like that, and I just looked stressed out.
Really?
But
you'd hate that as well, because obviously now, we've had you on Goodbye Rugby so many times, you're obviously part of the furniture, but where you are now and the questions you answer now in comparison to where you were before, like that raw, humble, don't want to say anything, don't overthinking, don't panic, must have been absolute hell for you.
Oh yeah, I've never seen so many recording items in front of me, and you just think, look, I always think, right, when I'm doing press, if there's no story written about me, I've done my job. I want to be as boring as I possibly can. I was not going to give them anything, like, because I felt like, because you're representing your club or your country, you just didn't want to, like, and why would I make the opposition angry?
Yeah, I know.
Like, why would I slag off someone to make them, give them an extra bit of fuel? So I was always really boring.
Did you get any really bad abuse by any Irish people, like, for women?
Yeah, loads. One of the tweets I had was, just arrived in Sydney, going to find John Fox Davis and break his legs.
From a Lions.
Was that your brother again?
Yeah, brother just came in, flown in. So it was just
really,
but like it made the experience even better. So like, yeah,
but it's good. Do you know what? That's the thing, is that everyone gets bogged down with that kind of stuff. If you imagine, that's just added the whole level of romance and story and stuff like that, and dying out. That's like, you played well, you guys looked great, absolutely smoked them. Yeah. It was the right decision. It came about. It adds more jeopardy, more story. When you're telling your grandkids in whatever time, boring them to death about, so you can say, you won't believe that this is what happened, and it doesn't diminish from the fact that Brian O'Driscoll is one of the greatest rugby players that's ever played. That's what happens in sport.
Just quickly, because of that third test, you had, was it 10 Welshmen?
Yeah.
Talk me through the cohesion element of that relative to the fact, I think we've got 7 from Leinster shaping up like they will be in the game against, obviously playing against the Brumbies, but potentially starting against the Wallabies in the first test as well. How secret an ingredient was that element of cohesion for that third test?
I think it was vital, because I think we went down the route of physicality, keeping the ball, being accurate with the ball, and putting Australia under pressure. It was quite close to half time, but we put in a huge amount of work. There was periods where we kept the ball for a long time, and we were like, Christ, we're getting nowhere. But like, we understood that would benefit us in the last 20 minutes, because however much it was hurting us, Australia would have been finding it far more difficult. And I think the trust aspect from the head coach gives him confidence. So I understand why there'll be like a lot more Irish from selection, like this selection for the Brumbies game. It's like, right, I know what these men can deliver. Yeah. And like, let's see if they can go out there and do it. So it does help. And I think it's the blueprint of what I think Andy Farrell will do this first test.
We shall see how they get on this Wednesday. A reminder, if you want to catch every single moment of the British and Irish Lions Tour Hask, there's only one place to be. You can stream Sky Sports with Now.
That's right. Sky Sports is the only place to watch every match of the British and Irish Lions Tour in the UK and Ireland.
Quite a bit of spice on the field. A little bit of spice building as well off the field. Dan Biggar and Ronan O'Gara, I think, have got proper squabbles, which I absolutely makes a very good telly. Each other? Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
I thought Dan Biggar, like 2
tens.
Oh no, particularly from across the ditch as well.
Tens are always position haters, just like scrum halves position haters. They're always going to be like, they're like, oh, he's my good friend. It's like, yeah, you'd run him over in a car and try and get away with it.
And Rog has a lovely sort of assassin smile where he goes, no, I really like what you said, but I totally disagree.
But my favorite is, it's like, as per my my last email, is basically in corporate speak, like, did you not fucking remember what I said? It's like that. Yeah, I really appreciate what you're saying, but actually you're completely wrong. But I think Dan Biggar, credit to him coming into retirement, because if you'd said I knew he'd be a good coach, but I never thought he was going to be a good pundit. I think he's doing some really good stuff. I think he looks really polished and
Works
smart.
hard at it,
He
doesn't he?
works hard. I think it's good. I think it's fair play to him. It's great to see players doing well.
Yeah, if you want to catch up with more Rog and bigger squabbles, then join us again on Wednesday. Very easy to stream Sky Sports with now. You get instant access to all the action. You can add or remove memberships whenever you want.
Clear your diary for the games this week. On Wednesday morning, it's the Brumbies versus Lions. Then on Saturday, the tour moves to Adelaide with a game against an Australian New Zealand Invitational 15. Coverage of both games gets underway at 10 a.m. Head to nowtv.com and stream Sky Sports instantly.
Lots of reruns as well, including 2017. And that try in the first test, I think I could watch on loop for the end of days.
Yeah, that's why you're losing.
Lots of other Lions fans would join me, I'm sure. Do you remember, I mean, you were obviously instrumental in that. Do you remember at the time thinking, sheesh, that's going to look good on the show reel for years to come?
I was devastated I wasn't going to score it.
You should have done and could have done.
I thought I was going to score it. And then as I'm being turned, I see Shawnee come in. And I'm like,
little tank
go
engine
on
your shoulder.
Go on, son.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's dining off that for years to come now. But epic try. But I think one bit of, not skill, but one moment, a part of that doesn't get enough credit is when you watch it back, how Ben Teo slightly shield, I think it's
Bumps Sonny Bill, yeah.
Just gives him a little nudge that creates that lane for Liam to get going. And after that, then it's just some great play. Like Elliot does really well to go in and out of Leonard Brown, I think. And I thought I'd done Barrett, and I'm thinking, yes, I'm going to score. And then next thing you know, I'm just on the floor and I'm just trying to get oxygen back in my lungs because that was good. And great play by Sanjay to dumb me out. Kieran Reid, I think. So yeah, you can see it now, and great to be involved in it.
I think when we watched it in the stadium, you don't really appreciate. You think it's a good try, but you don't then go, "Oh my God, that's probably one of the greatest Lions tries ever scored." Actually, note as well, Elliot Daly. We haven't talked about it. Sad.
Yeah.
And he was playing himself into a test
so
spot.
well as well.
So good. Those arm breaks are really annoying and very
Do you know the awful thing about that as well? It's such a sliding doors moment. He wasn't even meant to play the game.
Yeah.
It was because Hugo Keenan got ill. Elliot comes in. Again, really tidy. And then,
but what a player, what a guy. And I think, I know people said that when he came on, his selection was a bit of a surprise, but he is one of the classiest players I've ever played with, just all-round skill set. And one of the most annoying people, because anything involving a ball, he's incredible at.
The confidence he was showing and just the class, and you could tell how much experience he has. And I think he would have been involved in my test squad if he was like 100%. The way he was playing.
Swiss Army penknife. Do you remember the overall sort of, what was it? The overall sort of feeling at the end of that 2017 tour? I mean, you were obviously man of the series, voted for by your teammates.
Whoops.
Sorry about that. But do you remember coming off that thinking that we have achieved something quite special here, or coulda, shoulda, woulda?
I think obviously you want to win a test series, but at the time, no one gave us a hope in hell. Like we were setting off from Heathrow, and everyone was like, "Good luck, 3-0, blackwash again, or whatever it was going to happen," because you were playing against the 2-time World Cup winning champions. And like I remember, our first training session was like the Thursday before the first game on the Saturday. And I remember being on the training field, I think, "Oh my God, thank God I'm not playing this first game because I feel horrendous." And then 3 weeks later, you're playing the best team in the world. So it's just, it's stacked against you. And we just got better and better the more time we played. And if there was a decider the following week or not, whatnot, you don't know what happened. But I think to win down in New Zealand and draw that test match in Eden Park in the last game, Eden Park, was a great achievement by that group of players. And I always look back, and it was probably my favourite tour out of the two, because everyone, So I ended up sitting next to Haas quite a bit on the bus.
Shut up.
Yeah, we were just chalking cheese, but it was just, I thought he was talking to me, but he was talking to Instagram Live most of the time.
Having a look in his mirror again. That was one you said, was that the first time you actually recognised him without a scrum cap?
Because he came out and said hello, and I was like, "Hello, young chap, would you like an autograph?" Do you want a photo? And he's like, "It's me." I was like, "Who's me?" It's like, "Jonathan Foxy." I was like, and I just put a scrum cap shape around his face. I went, "Foxy, how are you?" I'd never seen him without a scrum cap on. Yeah, but those bus trips are funny, weren't they? Just sitting there chatting, absolute breeze, getting up. if anyone ever asked, do you miss playing? I always go, no. And they're always like so shocked. Like, you must miss it. It's like, I absolutely do not miss it. So physically can't do it. What I miss is going on a bus or being around 40 lads every day. It's just so funny.
Who are the best mates you made from a non-Welsh perspective on a Lions tour? Do you keep in touch with people now? When Geach talks about the look and the friendship and that kind of thing?
No, whenever you see the boys, and there's always that bond. And I remember, I think in 2017, one of my first roommates was Elliot Daly. And you have this thing when you're rooming with someone new, someone's got the remote control, you're flicking through the TV and you're like, right, what am I going to watch now that'll keep on, that's going to be cool? Like impress my roommate.
EastEnders,
so it's like, EastEnders, I want to watch it, but no. So you flick on. And Elliot had the remote control and like a cricket game came on. I said, oh, cricket. He goes, you like cricket? Like that. He looked at me dead serious. I was like, yeah, I used to play a bit and whatnot. And Elliot is a massive cricket fan. And then we started talking about it. And then he was like, Jamie's going to love you. He's a cricket fan as well.
I love that, yeah.
And then I was like, so then we had a WhatsApp group. Dan Bigger came in as well. So he liked cricket. And then we ended up going to watch a test match after the tour together and had beers, went out for food and stuff. And I think the WhatsApp's still going, but we don't message each other much now. But it's you always connect on things that you don't expect to, and whether that be in someone loves coffee, boys with the coffee, there'd be a coffee group and whatnot. There's always streams of like where boys are really bonding tightly, and I think Elliot there was great on that tour, and over cricket.
We had a WhatsApp group in 2017, but Ben Teo blew it up. He was the admin of it, and then just literally the tour had been finished for 2 hours, boom, deleted.
Yeah,
like, it was like we didn't get any memories out. He just detonated it. It was like, no, this isn't surviving, because I think it was a great one where he went and got pissed up and went and beat up Sexton and Owen Farrell. So it's like a video of him filming himself. I know they're filming him. He like kicks the door in and he's like, you fucking losers, you've got one bird between the two of you. You don't fucking drink. You're fucking boring. And then he just starts punching him through the duvet, and you just hear him like, "Whoa!" And he's like, you fucking Farrell, you're fucking boring as fuck, mate. And honestly beats him. It's amazing. And everyone's getting wild. And then one day it just goes, boom. Group's deleted.
Yeah. You've been removed all day. Oh, nice.
Yeah, we never got any videos.
Slightly compares and contrasts to Ellis Genge and Finlay Beelum, who've just been talking about Coffee Club and starting a podcast.
Yes, that's nice.
Yeah.
It's great to see those guys
Front row
doing well,
bonding.
Yeah, I'd love it. But Finlay Beelum's been a bit of a star.
I think he has.
Yeah, I think he's played well.
Growing into the.
There's a lot of front row look wild, don't they? Finlay Beelum looks wild. Andrew Porter looks wild.
Yeah, Ellis you wouldn't.
Ellis, wild. Like imagine bumping into them. They're all like handcrafting scones for afternoon tea and making coffee. Wild.
Yeah,
they're just That's
what you want.
You do, but it's just
got to have a bit of crazy to play in those positions.
Yeah, you have to.
Quick reminder, the Test Series is very nearly here. If you can't make it all the way down to Oz, but you do want to hear the roar of the crowd and stand shoulder to shoulder with the fellow Lions fans, there is only one place to be.
And we actually had a fantastic live show the other day with Alan from Wales and Soho O'Neill's. They have the best atmosphere on the high street, big screens, a pub packed with fans, and the perfect pint of Guinness. It's the closest you'll get to the MCG without lacing up your boots.
Don't leave it to chance, though. Book now to grab the best seats in the house, and while you're at it, pre-book your drinks package online so it's all ready when you walk in. No queues, no hassle, ready to go.
So grab your mates, grab a pint of Guinness, and be part of the action at O'Neill's.
It's going to get very noisy. It's going to get a lot of fun when the Test Series gets underway.
Well. I'm a big Guinness snob, actually. Very good. Yeah, I liked it. Sunk a few. Apparently, a good pint of Guinness, obviously, cream following the glass down, the drink down, but it's actually, you should drink one and you just want one more. It's not too cold, not too warm, just perfectly smooth. You finish it and go, yeah, I'll have another one, please.
Good. Tuck in. Enjoy. Shall we have a quick word on Australia? Because Lions obviously are looking for a little bit more perhaps than they got against the Waratahs. I'm sure Joe Schmidt will have said the same off the back of Australia 21, Fiji 18. Perhaps questionable result even at that. A 79th minute try from captain of number 8 Harry Wilson, sparing the blushes, and the TMO, your friend the TMO, clambered in quite a bit as well, ruled out what could and should perhaps have been a match winning, well, not should, because obviously Harry Potter had his foot in touch, but whether the TMO should have gone back to it, to chalk off the match-winning try for Fiji's Sireli Makala. I'm not sure. Joe Schmidt said, we didn't play well enough today for people to have expectation that we'll come bowling into Brisbane and knock the Lions over. How much better are the Wallabies going to be? How big an alarm bell was that game against Fiji?
I think they'll benefit massively from a hit out like that against Fiji, a loose game, high intensity at times, and, would have put the fear in them, like thinking, right, if we play this like this again, the Lions are going to beat us quite well. Joe Schmidt will be happy that they'll have a lot to work on, and just to refocus those minds, thinking, right, we need to be better to compete at a level where they need to be at. And I think that they'd be hoping that those injuries that weren't playing, Valentini, Skelton, big men, physical men, they'll need them to be competing with the Lions.
Jake Gordon as well, potentially going to come back in for that first test. How easy is it going to be for Australia to find a level that we haven't seen for a bit?
I just think that a different side and a different performance is going to turn up against the Lions. I think it always goes in there. I just don't think these warm-up games, are important to get guys going.
But you can see what's coming over the hill.
Yeah, I just think if you have any complacency and believe that just because Australia underperformed against Fiji, and by the way, Fiji, some of the tries they scored, oh my God, like just next level. I mean, if they could honestly put that performance together for 80 minutes, they would be the greatest side in the world, because they just do stuff that nobody else can do. I mean, that individual effort is probably one of the best tries I've ever seen.
Amazing. Athletic ability is the best in the world, the Fijians.
Handling, athletic ability. Again, it's hard because, if you could add a bit of structure to that, a bit of consistency, nail the defence, because also they're massive men. They're like some of the biggest people on earth, and genetically some of the hardest people on earth. Like, if you could just harness that, they'd be incredible. But it was always going to be difficult, and it's always difficult playing against the Fijian side to get consistency, because loose ball's always dangerous. You're always chasing shadows. The Australian sides come together. It's not going to be the final test side. They're missing certain players. Again, it's the same comparison to the Lions playing against Waratahs. You're never going to go back. Oh, do you remember the Waratahs game? That wasn't very good, was it? Who cares? And it's the same thing with Australia. Schmidt's a master tactician. You can't plan against Fiji. You can't do your analysis on them, really, because they haven't played for a while. You've got no idea what you're going to play. They're playing new players. But you can on the Lions, and you can put a game plan together, and you can understand what you're going to face. And it's a different challenge to what Fiji played. Schmidt's coming out and saying all sorts of stuff, because that's what you have to say. Because it's, look at my left hand, what's my right hand doing? And that's putting a team together and a game plan together to diffuse the Lions. And also, first thing I do is pressure the shit out of them in Lions in defence, because they're being a bit loose around some of those passing and plays, and also stopping their momentum. So, yeah, I think it'd be different sides. I wouldn't lose faith.
The only way I see Australia winning against the Lions is the way Argentina played against the Lions. Lions' mistake, Australia capitalised on those mistakes with being able to play with the ball, run from deep, and scoring counter-attacking tries. So if Lions are able to be more disciplined, have less errors, I don't see Australia being able to compete.
Yeah,
they will front up, but the class of this squad, can you imagine the bench that the Lions are going to have to call up on? And that's going to bring another level, and that's the strength of this squad. This Lions squad is like the first favourite Lions squad going on tour, and I don't know how long. So, they have to deal with that tag emotionally. That's another layer on top of what everything else they're dealing with, the travelling, coming together as a team, being away from family and whatnot, and a long season. But I just think that it's the Lions to lose, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I think if they can just nail down those few areas that we talked about, defence, accuracy and all that, they're going to be in a good spot.
High stakes for the Australians as well, in terms of the fact off the field things are perhaps not as rosy as they want it to be, and they've got World Cup in 2 years' time, etc. But they are going to be absolutely desperate that it is a series that lives long in the memory rather than anything that sort of is too one-sided. We shall see. It feels very much like the calm before the storm. Everyone tinkering and fiddling around with getting selections right. less than 2 weeks to go. It's obviously, 12 days or so until that first test, and then all will be revealed. That is it for us for this week. A quick reminder, a couple of bits before we go. We've got a new book out, GBR Unlocked, out on the 6th of November. If you fancy tucking, we had some very nice reviews, actually. Please do pre-order on Amazon and Waterstones. You get discount back if they stick on a code between now and then.
If they discount it between now and the book sales, you get it at your original price.
That's
You're welcome.
very nice
It's the kind of deals we're doing.
We're doing a tour as well. Do you want to do the tour
dates?
dates?
We are doing a tour. The Good, the Bad, and the Rugby are going back on tour with the Lock-In Live. Here are your dates. October 29th, Warwick. 30th, Birmingham. 31st, Cardiff. November 2nd in Oxford, 3rd in Reading, 5th in Guildford. If you want to get some tickets, then head over to myticket.co.uk. That's myticket.co.uk, and the link will be in the episode description box. It is going to be a riot. You don't even need to know anything about rugby because we very rarely talk about it. If you want to go on the Royal Family, we're going to tell you all about that. Trust me.
Good. What's the next excitement for you? What's in the diary?
I'm excited for this Lions series now. I think it's been busy travelling. I can actually watch a few of the games, and
it's a hard life, isn't it? I'm actually busy just globe-trotting, and actually quite nice to sit on my sofa. It's a good problem to have.
It's it's nice time a nice time in, but all good. Just hoping that this, like we said, this test series lives up to the expectation, and the people that go on there, the travelling support, get a test series that warrants it, because it's massive for rugby. This is everyone really talks about it, and having been a part of it a couple of times, it's it's been a big part of my career or ex-career.
Yeah, that is it. As we said, get in contact with us on our social media channels at Good Bad Rugby, or use the email info@goodbadrugby.com. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and follow us for the latest rugby updates. Thank you, as always, to our fantastic sponsors, Continental Tyres, the official tyre partner to England Rugby. Remember, if you're looking for an award-winning tyre that can keep up with your every move, look no further than Continental Tyres. We're a folding pocket production. Stats and facts provided by Russ Petty. Thank you to John Fox. Thank you to Hask. This episode was produced by Tom Obers. Have a lovely rest of your week. We'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.
You've been listening to The Good, Yay, The Bad, and The Rugby, Oof, with Alex Payne, James Haskell, and Mike Tyndall. Thanks for listening.